Welcome to Sputnik, orbiting the world with me, George Galloway.
And me, Gayatri.
The world's greatest saxophone player is something to be. He's not an African-American, as you might expect him to be, never sat by the Mississippi, absorbing jazz and the blues. In fact, he came upon these genres in the only record shop, as we used to call them, in the unlikely neighborhood of Tel Aviv.
That's right. He's an Israeli Jew who even served in the Israeli army. He saw the light politically in occupied Lebanon when he saw a row of small concrete kennels in which he imagined the soldiers kept their Alsatians, before discovering it was where the soldiers kept their Palestinian victims, those that they hadn't killed. He went on the road and never turned back to the Zionism of his youth.
He's politically fascinating, artistically he's a genius. And he's here. Welcome, Gilad Atzmon, to the Sputnik. I want to get some artistic points out of the way because you're too modest to do it. You are on the new Pink Floyd album. For 20 years you've been a blockhead, by which I mean the wonderful English band, formerly fronted by Ian Drury, the Blockheads. How much of your life is occupied by music nowadays, and how much by politics?
To start with, I'm not engaged in politics at all. I've never been a member of any party or anything as such. I'm concerned with humanist matters, and I write about what does it mean to live amongst others. To your question, I'm playing every night. I'm recording a lot. I'm touring a lot constantly. And in between, I read and write.
This is your new album.
It's my new album.
The Whistleblower.
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
It's just about to come out in a few days, in the beginning of January.
Well, I haven't heard this album yet, but I've heard you play.
Yeah.
You really are a genius. You are going to teach me to play the saxophone, and maybe on a later edition of the Sputnik, we'll show us doing a rap. You wrote a book which I read with some trepidation because there's been a big job done on you to paint you in a really negative way.
Yeah.
And I was enthralled, both of us were. Yeah. In fact, and it was the early days of our marriage, I used to read her a chapter of your book every night. We went to bed thinking
I think this is what I recommend all young couples, you know, is that read Gilad Atzmon before you go to sleep.
It's a sort of contraception. It was called The Wandering Who, which is a fantastic title, and titles are really important in books. Tell us what led to the book and what it's about.
I really think that we have been misled for quite a long time in our understanding of Zionism, Israel, the work of the lobby, and so on and so on and so on. For quite a while, I argue that if Israel defines itself as the Jewish state and decorates its airplanes and tanks with Jewish symbols, the first thing that we have to do is to try to understand what is Jewishness. What are the relationship between Judaism, Jewishness, the Jew? What are the relationship between these three and Zionism? These are fundamentals. Now, for quite a while, because of the domination of a lot of good Jews, let's say, within the left, we were prevented from going there. We were only allowed to talk about Zionism or colonialism. Zionism is a misleading notion. Zionism, from Israeli perspectives, died in 1948. Zionism was the promise to form a Jewish state in Zion, i.e. Palestine. Once this state was formed, from an Israeli perspective, the project was gone. For American Jews in Brooklyn or here in Golders Green, it is still a very vivid concept. But from Israelis, it wasn't Zionism that motivated us or pushed us forward. We were Israeli patriots. We actually despised the so-called diaspora Jew, whom we regarded as very weak people. Now, apartheid is a very misleading concept. Apartheid is an exploitive, racist system. Israel doesn't want to exploit the Palestinians, it wants them out. Colonialism speaks about relationship between a mother state and a settler state. Israel is a settler state, but where is the mother? Who is the mother? We are using a lot of terminology that is very misleading. I realized a long time ago that it is the Jewish identity politics that drives the Jewish state. I faced a lot of opposition, but now, just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we saw that the Israeli cabinet approved the Jewish national bill, the Israeli national bill that determines the primacy of Jewishness in the Israeli state. And those who, by the way,
democracy.
For sure. And those who, by the way, like Tzipi Livni, now she becomes a leftist. Yeah. Until 2 weeks ago, she was a war criminal. You know, it's like, you know, and we are very forgiving. Those who oppose the national bill, they don't oppose the essentialist gist of it. They just say, we don't need it because we know that we are the Jewish state. We don't have to write it down.
Default.
We see now something very interesting in Israel. Something very, very interesting something that shocks me, and you know, because obviously I'm an anti-Zionist, but what is so fascinating in Israeli politics at the moment is that it's actually the ultra-Zionists who insist to be truthful to themselves. They say, we will go for this national bill. We understand the consequences. We understand that it's going to jeopardize our foreign affairs and so on and so on. But this is what we are. We are Jews, and we want this state to be the Jewish state against all odds. And then we see the Jewish left trying to divert the attention from the factuality of the Jewish state. This is what I tried to do in The Wandering Jew, and I'm very happy. I was very happy to face so much outrage because it only proved that I had something to say.
You are Jewish, whether you resign it or not.
I'm not a Jew anymore. This is something that very important.
I'm not sure you can resign it, but your parents were strong supporters of Zionism and of the embryonic
I'm from a right-wing family.
Yeah, and you served in the Israeli army.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult to pin the label anti-Semite on you, as they try to do on people like me, when nothing could be further from the truth. But here's the...
No, but you're right. Every time I was called an anti-Semite or there's a suggestion that The Wandering Jew is an anti-Semite text, I said, all right, let's stop for a second. Just tell me, where did I speak about Jews as a race, as a people, as ethnicity? I don't even talk about Judaism. I actually point at the very peculiar fact in Jewish history that during those hundreds of years of rabbinical Judaism, Jews have never been involved as a collective in any genocide. It's actually the process of secularism in the Jewish world that introduced a very interesting and very devastating developments in Jewish culture. So we see Zionism is just one aspect of it. Some will talk about the predominance of Jews within the neoconservative school of thought. Others would talk about predominance of Jews within the Bolshevik revolution and so on and so on. Something very, very interesting happened at that period of history that starts with emancipation, late 19th century, and we are within academia. You cannot even tackle this issue scholarly because you may find yourself being attacked or smeared or abused by some Jewish lobbies.
Or in my case, physically attacked. Let me finish with this point. The man who attacked me converted to Judaism. And now when he's released from prison, he's going to go and live in Israel, where he has an automatic right of settlement, citizenship. There's a fund that's going to fund his life there. Yeah, a birthright, except in his case, he was a Christian. until very recently. He has no genetic connection to the land of Palestine at all.
By the way, but not only that you are right, and your attack, the way in which you were attacked, and the lameness of the reaction of the British media, I found it totally devastating. By the fact that the guy is a converted is not and was so vile is not very surprising. You know, we hear about ISIS all the time, that a lot of the combatants there are converts from Europe. What I'm saying, and this was my first reaction to your to this vile attack on you, is that we have to step up. MI5, MI6, police, Metropolitan Police or whatever, must step up their surveillance and espionage within those Jewish communities. How many British Jews or American Jews served in Gaza in the last 3 months in the summer and were involved in this massacre? You know?
And if one Palestinian or one Muslim had gone to fight
Syria
for the Palestinian side, they'd already be
so
behind bars.
these issues must be addressed. And I'm not working in university. I'm completely independent. I'm not an MP. I'm basically a jazz musician. I'm free to say and do what I like to do.
Speaking about your jazz music, you mentioned in the beginning that you are not political, but you have very articulate political views. And I was just wondering, how does it influence your music? Does it affect some audience? Would they boycott you because of your stance?
There was obviously a lot of attempts to boycott me, but I'm a nice guy and I'm charming, so when they tried to call me an anti-Semite, it was slightly pathetic because I had 3 Jews in the band. And when they called me a racist, they had a problem because I had a black guy in the band. You know, it just doesn't. They never managed to stop my career. For me to be a jazz musician is to develop this ability to reinvent yourself every night. It's pretty much the opposite of a politician, although you are very good at it, I must admit, which is genius.
Gilad, we're going to have to continue this another time because we've run over. You're a fascinating guy, as I said at
Thank
the
you so much,
beginning.
man.
Keep blowing that
It's great
horn.
to spend time with you. I wish we could do it
Thank you,
on a regular basis.
Coming up after the break.